Hey there, Groove Stars. Ridgely here with a fantastic episode of Lessons from the CEO. Excited to have with me Steve Black, who's the Executive Director of BNI West and South Central Texas, who's been working with entrepreneurs, like a lot of entrepreneurs, for a very long time. Tremendous amount of experience. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Ridgely. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to
Oh
it.
man, and you guys hear that? You guys hearing that? He's got the cool accent too. So
The cool Texas accent. Yeah.
doesn't sound like Texas to me. So tell us a little bit about your background, Steve. Where are you from? How did you make your way from wherever you came from to being in the middle of Texas?
Well, yeah, a bit of a long story, so I'll keep it as brief as possible. Originally from England, though nowadays I tell everybody it's East Texas, as far east as you can go. And I got here in 2000. You could say I was one of the first internet relationships, if you like. Back in 1996, I met my wife online.
Oh,
And we've now been happily married for close to 23 years.
congratulations.
Moved over here in 2000, ended up in Texas because that's where she was. Went through a couple of different jobs and then ended up with my own business. And 23 years later, helping a lot of small businesses grow.
And that's super fantastic and very valuable for all the people who are either watching and or listening to this. So tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. Did you have the bug early on, or did you just get it recently, or what did that look like for you?
Very early on, I actually had my own business in the UK before I moved over here. My original passion, my father was in the police force, my mother was in the police force, my brother was in the police force. My passion was to be a policeman. But unfortunately, I had an eye injury when I was 15 years old. And back then it was perfect eyesight, otherwise you don't get in. So it was like, I can't be a policeman. I'm going to be the black sheep of the family, for want of a better description. And I found that working for somebody else was not fun. I was one of those entrepreneurs that always thought they could do better than everybody else. It took me a while to figure out that they had a lot more support and teams than I did when I started. But yeah, had my own business over in the UK before I moved over here. Got a job when I first got here. I wasn't affluent enough to be able to say, let's take the time and build a business. Worked for a convenience store chain, became their training director. Ended up with a business that did custom window treatments and window films, which is where I found BNI. I actually got invited to BNI as a member, or to be a member, by an interior designer I knew down in San Marcos, Texas. And so back in 2007, 2008, that was my first foray into BNI back then.
And tell us, for those people who don't know, BNI is a global organization that's doing tremendous work to help entrepreneurs all over the world. Tell everybody a little bit about BNI, because it's really fantastic. It's a great organization. I've enjoyed interacting and speaking on stages with BNI founder Ivan Meisner and a couple other people. So tell us a little bit about the organization.
BNI is now, well, very shortly going to be 38 years old. Ivan started, and when you mentioned Ivan Meisner, he started it as his own networking group back in 1985. But BNI is Business Network International. What we have right now is 305,000 members, give or take a few. But what we do is we put local businesses together in a meeting every week, and we teach them how to get referrals to each other. So if I was a realtor, you were a mortgage broker, I'd teach you how to talk to each other to get more referrals. But having a team of 20, 30, 40 members in the same room every week, it just increases the value, increases the number of referrals you can get. So it's kind of like a second home, if you like. Long relationships, building referrals.
And now, so you handle obviously all of West and South Central Texas. How many BNI members are you taking care of on a regular basis?
We're at 300. Sorry, yeah, let me do the math. We launched a new chapter yesterday, which was really exciting, with 21 members. So we're now, if I quickly do the math, we're about 312 members in 14 chapters.
Well, with it, that's just fantastic. I mean, congratulations to you, my friend. That's just great. And obviously, everybody paying attention, listen closely, because this is a gentleman who deals with entrepreneurs all the time. So whether you're a brand new entrepreneur or a growing entrepreneur, doesn't matter. There's a lot of wisdom to glean from what Steve does. And tell us a little bit, if you will, what do you think, based on what you've seen so far, are the two top characteristics of a successful entrepreneur?
You know, it's very difficult. So I always try to think about what that would be for me and what that would be for somebody else. And I think the reason you got into business would be the number one. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but I honestly believe the passion you have for what you do is the most important thing for success. If you don't enjoy it, or you just get into it through luck or chance, and it's not your passion, not your as Simon Sinek says, your why, then I don't think it will be successful long term. It might be successful enough, but will it be what you really want it to be? And I think passion has got to be the number one thing I see from those people that are very successful. They have a real passion for doing what they do, which just attracts more people to them. The second one has got to be able to connect with people. Unless you're literally in the middle of Antarctic by yourself and there's nobody else around, you've got to be able to talk to other people, have mentors, have coaches, have people that you can talk to help you along the way. Because it doesn't matter how much passion you have, if you're missing a piece of what you need to be successful, you need to be able to find that somewhere. And yes, online courses are great. YouTube videos are probably awesome, cat videos especially. But really, when you think about it, what you want to be able to do is talk to somebody and ask a question, because you're going to get stuck no matter how good you are.
Well, let's unpack that, because there was a lot there. Talk to us. Let's start with coaches. Tell me a little bit about, based on your experience, in a lot of ways, you are a coach to a lot of entrepreneurs. So I want to distinguish between coaches and mentors, because I do think we need both. So yes, coaches, what is the main value from your perspective of having a coach and seeking out coaches?
Coaches to me are people that can teach you how to organize your business with systems. And you think about a soccer team or a football team. I don't understand football that well. It's like there's 160 players on each side. You only spend 3 minutes on the pitch. It's a little bit confusing at times. Soccer's easy, right? You've got people in your team that are doing certain roles on a playing field, and those people need to be coached on how to do certain moves, certain transitions on the field, depending on what's happening with the ball and who's got the ball, etc. So a coach to me is somebody that can come into your business, come to you, and help you develop the systems you need to be successful as a business. Then look at different types of coaches. I did a bit of research online, probably no more than a month ago. ChatGPT, a lot of fun. You can ask it a lot of questions. It's like, give me the top 10 types of coach. And I ended up with a top list of 50 types of coaches. And it's like, okay, retirement coach, life coach, personal development coach, success coach, all those different coaches. But again, it's down to, let me show you a system, or let me help you develop your system for your business, for your life to be successful. To me, that's a coach.
So let's distinguish that with a mentor. What would be the differentiator for you?
A differentiator for a mentor would be somebody that I can talk to about anything that would encourage me to come up with my own way of thinking on a certain topic, subject, problem, pain, whatever I'm dealing with. I want somebody to be able to, as a mentor, to bounce ideas off, or even to the extent where the mentor would be able to come to me and say, hey, Steve, I noticed, let's talk about that. So you're willing to interrupt what you're doing, if you like, to give you guidance. Or I think a mentor is more like a therapist. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if we can help you through this, if you want my help doing this. And I think there's different types of mentors as well. You can mentor for business, mentor for life, mentor for relationships. You can literally go a long way with that. But to me, a mentor is somebody there's no distinct system to it. It's more like a very deep friendship where you can have those conversations about things that matter to you.
And so when you're coaching or speaking with, or I'm not sure what term you prefer to use in communicating with your BNI members, do you encourage them to seek out coaches and mentors?
Yes. Yes, we actually have a number of coaches in our chapters that join the chapters, so they have access to different coaches. There are a number of different companies that I won't mention on the call here that gravitate towards BNI because of the relationship BNI has with those organizations. You know, for example, literally 2 days ago, Ivan Meisner put out an email to all of us for us to share with our members that they've now gone into partnership with Jack Canfield.
Nice.
So they've created this system where you've got a BNI, I guess, access to BNI tools and Jack Canfield at the same time. Ivan and Jack have gone back a long way, but there are also coaches in our chapters, people like Action Coach and others, where people can seek out help on what they need. Mm-hmm. I think it's a personal thing as well. I encourage coaches, but it's got to be the right coach. It can't be somebody that's assigned to you. It's got to be somebody that you actually want to work with. In my life, I've had people assigned to me as a coach, and it hasn't always worked out the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about one of the things that I see that's a bit dangerous in seeking out coaches and or mentors, which is that shiny penny syndrome of jumping from one to another. Because although I agree with you 100%, you need to find the one that's right for you. Yep. Jumping too early from one thing to the next thing without really trying to embrace the system that you're trying to learn through a coach, not particularly effective.
Right. There's two sides to that. It's like, how did you find the coach in the first place? You know, where was the connection that said that this coach would be a good connection for you to have? Whilst the internet is great, looking for all the life coaches and trying to pick one from the information on the internet might not be the best way to do it, especially when it's something as important as a coach. Somebody you're going to interact with, not online courses, not education content, but we're actually talking about people where, say, you and I had a coaching relationship, we'd want to be having an honest and frank conversation, which number one means we need to like each other. We've also got to build somewhat of a relationship. And it's kind of like a coach needs to be interviewed first, if you like. The same as you would do with an employee, because they are going to get into your business the same as you're into your business, and they need to know, but they also need to have a relationship with you. The shiny object syndrome is prevalent everywhere because everybody's coming up with these new things, new ways to do things. You know, sign up for this, sign up for that. And I must admit, I sign up for some of them, but I don't sign up for coaches that way. I look at different, say, I want to learn this topic. What am I going to sign up for versus I need to find a coach? Who am I going to ask for help in finding a coach? And that shiny object syndrome is, if you don't like the results you're getting, you do need to change your coach. But you also need to be careful on how you pick your coach in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's very, very valid and very important because there is so much stuff out there, and there are people who are fairly good at presenting a story of what they can do. And maybe they can for certain people, but it doesn't necessarily mean they can do that for you if you're not the right fit. And that's making a big assumption that they can do it for others. I found over the many, many years in business, I've had a number of different coaches, and some of them were amazing and great, and others were pretty much not helpful at all.
Right. And I bet it wasn't because of the content.
Yeah, is the chemistry, the dynamics, if someone is trained in something that has some legs, it's because it worked somewhere at some point. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the right fit for you or for me or for whoever's listening to this right now.
And you've also got the delivery. I mean, I remember when I was back at school, yes, I know I'm getting on in a few years, but I can still remember school. And there was one lesson that everybody in school hated. It was the physics teacher. And the physics teacher basically said, pull out your pen, pull out your notebook, and dictated for the whole hour. So you walked out of the classroom with a cramped hand and didn't remember a single thing.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And you could say that's a form of coaching. I know teaching, coaching, slightly different. Teaching, imparting information, coaching, helping with information. But you think about how that would be. I would never want a coach to just talk at me for an hour.
Yeah. And I also think that learning how to use the tools that a coach offers is super important. Right now, I can't get through this without having the dialogue about AI. And AI to me is a massive amplifier and multiplier if you know how to use the tool. If you don't know how to use the tool, it's a huge time waster. Just like social media can be good, or it could be a huge time waster. YouTube can be great or a huge time waster. And AI is the same thing. What's your take on that?
AI is like, if you haven't got any education on AI and you're just trying to copy other people's prompts and hoping it work, it's kind of like driving a Lamborghini that's a stick shift when you've only ever driven an automatic Honda. It's just not going to be fun the first time you go out on the road. And it's going to take a long time for you to be comfortable doing that. AI is brilliant in the fact that it can find you information you may need very, very quickly and very inexpensively. However, you've got to ask it the right questions, and that goes back to coaching. I mean, you could say AI is a coach. If you don't ask your coach the right questions, you're not going to get the right answers. If you don't ask AI the right questions, you're not going to get the right answers. And how AI is delivered does make a difference. But yeah, AI is great, but it's another shiny object.
Yeah, I do think, and this is just my own personal takes, not imposing that on anybody else. I do think it's a game changer if you take the time. For me, when I found out that they just recently did some studies, and it's probably even more advanced now, that OpenAI's IQ is up to 155, and Einstein's at 160. So we're getting close to Einstein level. And if you think about it from this perspective, wow, I have this tool that is as smart as Einstein, is free and way faster, or almost free.
Right, but Einstein was able to self-evaluate the information, and the measurement of IQ isn't accurate when what you've got with AI is a database of information that it's scouring. For example, if I put AI in a database of incorrect information, it wouldn't have the same IQ unless you're measuring IQ on incorrect information, right? And that's the challenge. You know, it gets information very fast, but if you're not asking it the right questions, you're getting the wrong answers.
Which is always comes back to the same thing of you can't be driving a Lamborghini with a stick if all you know is an automatic Honda.
Right.
Yeah. And it really is an important one, because I feel like we're beginning to see things turning very quickly, and things are going faster and faster. And you can kind of project out there what's coming. And therefore, my feeling is, if you have a business that in any way involves the internet and being online, yeah, probably a good idea to spend a little time getting educated on this AI thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But don't think it's going to be another shiny object that's going to fix your business.
No, correct. Because for that, you need systems. So
yes, exactly.
That said, tell us about some setback or error or mess up, colossal or not, that you endured in growing your business, this one or a past one, and what you took away from that.
The biggest one that the biggest one I can think of is my change and my transition from doing the custom window treatments and window films into doing BNI.
Mm-hmm.
When my wife and I started the window treatment, window film business, we had no idea BNI was a franchise and I could actually own a franchise. And the goal was to continue building the window treatment business. And whilst I was having success, I was the chief cook and bottle washer. I did the sales, I did the installations, I had a few outsourced crews that came in occasionally, but literally when it was time to transition into BNI, which became my passion, if you like, and I've got a little story about how I got to that, but it was a case of I had nothing to sell. Because I was the person that was the business. You know, somebody taking over the business couldn't say, oh, great, it comes with a book of business, it comes with installers, comes with salespeople. All I have to do is take it on and manage it. I literally was selling myself because I hadn't set it up at that time to be a business that I could transition out of or even sell. Right. So that was my biggest mistake I made with the original business, because if I'd have done that right, getting into BNI with a reasonable amount of money would have been a smart move. As it was a struggle at the beginning, but we got through that as well. But yeah, I'd say that was my biggest mistake, not setting my business up as if I'm not the most important person in the room.
which is such a common thing. So many people are the solopreneurs. They are the business. They don't have a team. They don't build a team. And therefore, if they stop working, income is gone, business is done, forget about it, whatever. Very unfortunate, but a big lesson, especially for people who are beginning to grow. You have to start bringing on people. So how did you make that transition? You said there's an interesting story. I want to hear it.
I became a director consultant for the owner of the regions down in San Antonio, Austin. When I joined the chapter, I loved it so much. I did BNI. I was getting a lot of good results from BNI. And what they do in each region is they have members that become director consultants that help manage the chapters out there so that one person doesn't have to visit 40 or 50 chapters every month. It becomes a challenge getting to everybody. So they have local directors. I went to my first BNI conference in 2013. Heard a presentation about called the Passion Test, Janet Bray Atwood, and I went back from BNI. I had like 10 or 12 goals on my dry erase board in my office. I rubbed them all out and said, I want to become a franchise owner or executive director for BNI. And it happened exactly 11 months later.
Fantastic.
That was the only goal. That was the only thing I was working towards for it to happen as soon as it could. And right place, right time, or the law of attraction, however you want to look at that. It happened within 11 months. And then within another 8 months, I picked up another 2 franchises, which allowed me to literally quit what I was doing and work on BNI full time.
That's just fantastic. You expand it naturally and organically. Janet Atwood, by the way, is a friend of mine, so I'm very familiar with the Passion Test. So
still got the book here on the shelf. Yeah,
perfect, awesome. So with that in mind, talking about the Passion Test, what do you think is the value for an entrepreneur of personal and professional development?
I don't think you can put a price on it. I honestly don't. I'd say, what is the benefit of learning more about anything? Let's just take your industry, my industry, or any industry out there. Every month and every year, there are changes in industry. And if you don't keep up with those changes, somebody else is going to be better than you or faster than you or stronger than you later on. I actually sent an email out to one of my lists a couple of days ago. It's like the $6 million man, for those of us that remember it was better, faster, stronger. And unless you're continually learning, you won't be, which means somebody else will be. And if they do the right marketing along with that, you're going to lose ground. You're going to lose business. There is no standing still. There is no hoping that everything will continue the same way. Now, the trick is weeding out the stuff you don't need to learn. I'm a junkie. I like to learn everything. But sometimes there's no value to it, right?
Yeah. How do you help people to understand that it's okay to be a junkie? It's okay to be a lifelong learner, as long as it doesn't come along with that, oh, I'm still learning, but I'm not doing yet. I'm not in action yet, which we see.
Right.
You address that.
The chasing of perfection is in itself flawed. It's impossible. Nobody can be perfect at anything, because there's always going to be something that's changing along the way. So aiming for perfect, but I think it's an excuse not to do something. It gives you a reason not to put it out there, just in case somebody doesn't want to buy it, somebody doesn't want to use you, somebody doesn't want to, pay you money, because you have this fear that I just need to learn a little bit more before I do this. I just need to get this one thing right before I do this. It's kind of like, I won't join a networking group because I'm shy and nervous. The problem is you'll still be shy and nervous if you don't join a networking group. At least joining a networking group, you're going to be less shy and nervous because you're going to be forced into it. It's kind of like, I want to get out of my comfort zone. And it's the same with learning. There's 2 questions you need to ask yourself with learning. And I try to ask this before I learn something. Is it relevant to what I want to do in the future? It doesn't have to be right now. And what do I need to give up to be able to learn that? Because if my day's already full of stuff and I want to add another 3 hours of education to it, I've got to get rid of something or stop doing something to do something else. And is it worth doing that? So,
I had an interesting experience this morning. In one of my clients, I run a personal growth thing for the client and their team. And we often ask for, does anybody have a suggestion as to what we should study this month? And one of the girls over there suggested this book that we read. and went through. And I found myself at the beginning of the book saying, this is way too simplistic, way too templated, way too formatted. I'm not enjoying this. And about 20 pages in, I said, stop. You've committed to reading this as part of a program. Change your focus right now to what are you going to get out of this that you can use, despite that you don't like the writing style or whatever. And I ended up with 6 sticky notes all through the book of stuff that was really relevant, that was tracking back to other things you've read and reinforce certain things. Very, very valuable, actually, to also make sure we have the right attitude when it comes toward that learning thing. Not like, oh, I'm learning for the sake of learning. I'm learning for a purpose because I'm going somewhere, because we're doing something that matters to us.
Yeah, when we eventually retire and I just want to learn about the history of France, fine, I'll do that. But that's a choice in retirement, right? That's a different type of learning. But yeah, no matter what you do in life, business-wise, or even if you're working for somebody, you don't actually have to own your own business for this. You've got to have a purpose for the education you take on. You've definitely got to know what you're aiming for in all aspects of what you do, whether it's the next promotion or it's starting your own business.
Yeah, that for example, here's an example of talking about AI and the value of AI. I'm deeply involved in AI, writing software, doing all kinds of stuff, only in my lane. I don't need to understand how AI is helping doctors make medical evaluations. I don't need to understand how AI is going to help a mechanic fix a car. I'm involved in marketing and messaging. That's what we do, helping people express themselves better. So I'm very deeply immersed in AI in that lane, but not in the other lane. I don't need to be distracted by all that other stuff because it's cool. Because you're right, you can just go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, find yourself lost in there forever and come out going, why did I just do that? What was the point?
Yeah, I think education's a weird thing, though, isn't it? It's like you probably do pick up books and watch things that are completely irrelevant to what you do for a living. But to me, it's like, what is the one piece of information I can walk away from with this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is it that I'm going to get out of this that's going to help me personally or professionally? I think sometimes, and yes, staying in your lane is very. You actually think about it; it's a business plan. Mm-hmm. You know, if you write your business plan and you follow your business plan for your business, there shouldn't be any tangents because there should always be a question of, is it relevant to my business plan? I guarantee there's probably 98% of the people that start businesses that do write a business plan do not look at it after day one and never go back to it. And it's very, very relevant, especially when something new comes out like AI. How does that fit into my business plan? It's like, do I need to reevaluate what I'm doing, how I'm doing it? I'm a journaler. Okay, I've got a journal over here. I write every morning for about 10, 15 minutes about things that's gone on and things I want to do. Brainstorm with myself, if you like. Brainstorming with other people means I have too many ideas. So I just do it with myself. But it's something I do, and there's no technology involved other than the pen. But that's something I chose to do. It's still not out of my lane because it's about what I've achieved and what I want to achieve.
Yeah. And getting clarity on that. And clarity is so powerful. So in that regard, give us 3 good resources. Could be books, could be whatever, that you would recommend, and the reason why you'd recommend them for budding entrepreneurs and even seasoned entrepreneurs.
Okay. I can think of 2 books off the top of my head. No, 3 books, but 2 are related. And I'll stick with the books because I'm an avid reader. Yes, there are courses and everything else out there online, but I tend not to remember them that well after I've gone through the course, unless there's one point that really kicks with me. So the 3 books: E-Myth Revisited, Michael Gerber. One of my favorite books, purely because of the fact that it talks excessively about systems and the fact that you can set up your business to run without you, which you eventually want to do if you're not already there. How many of you would like to work one day a month and let the whole thing carry on running and paying you? I mean, that's what we're talking about, you know. And I love the way he did it in a story format as opposed to just saying this is what you need to do. Gave a lot of examples, a lot of stories. Really great, really good book. Ivan Meisner's got a couple of books I would recommend, and it depends on how serious you are about referrals and networking. The first one is the 29% Solution. The 29% solution is kind of this 6 degrees of separation, which is actually a complete myth. I haven't did the research; it's in the book. Basically, only 29% of the people that sent out letters that got within 6 degrees of separation actually made it to the actual destination. So saying everybody's connected by 6 degrees of separation was, and it's probably a lot closer now than it used to be, but then there's 8 billion people now. It's actually a fallacy. So it gives you 52 weeks of things you need to do to network and get connected.
Nice.
And it was a great way for a beginner to get into the networking.
Sure.
And staying with Ivan Meisner, my other one would be networking like a pro, because it starts talking about systems and communication and networking with a purpose. And most of my chapters have got a library of books. But yeah, those are 3 books I would definitely recommend to get started. Those you can see behind me, I've got a few extras that we could probably talk about.
Yeah, I bet. No, we're still part of that group that has a tendency to say, I think I really do want to read 1 or 2 books a month, every month, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do. Actually, more than that. So I love asking this question. With all of the knowledge and wisdom and experience that you have today, if you had a time warp clicker and you could go click and jump back in time 20, 25 years to speak to the Steve Black of 25 years ago, what would you want to share with that young Steve that strikes you that might have been valuable or at least interesting? Understanding that, yes, we're all on a journey. Everything is meaningful. I get all that. But if you had something you could share with young Steve, what would you want it to be?
Start sooner. I came over to the US shortly after that 25-year mark. 25 years is pretty much when Lisa and I met for the first time. A couple of years before that, did the transition, all the visa and everything else to come to the States. But I got a job for the first couple of years, 4 years, went through the thing. We talked about businesses. We talked about ideas. Start sooner. If you've got an idea, sit down, work out a business plan, figure out if you can do it and if it'll work, even if you start part-time, and just start sooner. Start doing it sooner. If you really want to do it, start sooner. Don't wait for it to be perfect.
Yeah, I've heard that multiple times from actually very successful entrepreneurs that still said the same thing. I wish I would have started sooner. Wish I would have run a little harder early on.
Yep.
Me, I had one job for 1 month in my entire life. So psychologically unemployable. That doesn't mean that I learned any faster than anybody else. I just couldn't work for anybody else. It just didn't work for me. So I was like, nope, not doing that. So tell us a little bit about your vision for your business moving forward. Where would you like to be 5 years from now?
That's a really difficult one, especially as this is going public. I actually have 2 paths that I can take in the next 12 months. With the BNI regions I have, they're up for renewal in 12 months. I'm going to be notifying BNI of my decision to keep on the franchises, but there is an option to sell them and step down. That's everybody that owns a franchise will get that choice every 5 years to say, do I want to continue doing more of the same thing? Or do I want to move on to the next stage of my life? And I've got that. I'm in that 12-month window where that decision needs to be made. Financially, I can't lose really either way. BNI businesses are worth money, so I would be able to step back and maybe be a little bit more relaxed, go more into the coaching and consulting rather than managing 300 plus BNI members. Conversely, I'm in something that I'm comfortable with and have known a long time, and I think I'm pretty good at. So do I want to continue doing the same thing and just keep growing it for the next 5 years? So yeah, not got a final decision on that one yet, but definitely want to move. That's the only thing I can say.
Interestingly, first of all, you put yourself in a great position. Congratulations. That's fantastic. So the question that immediately surfaced in my mind is, so what are you doing? What is your process that you're going through to try to sort through all that and figure out which direction you want to go in?
It's I'll be honest with you, it's mainly financial at this point. My wife and I we're about 4 hours from the kids, and we now have grandkids. So we want to move probably closer to them, though of course we might want to move to Mexico or England. Who knows? But I think we want to move closer to them. A 4 hour drive to go visit where we have to do an overnight stop. We've got animals we have to organize. It's kind of like, let's just move closer. The problem is it's twice as expensive where they live, right? Austin's not exactly cheap anymore. Or it never was cheap, but now it's really not cheap. So from the point of view of moving, it would be nice to turn around in a year's time and buy a house outright and not have to worry about a mortgage and not worry about what I'm going to do and how much money I need to earn. Conversely, I do love what I do. But yeah, being close to the kids is the priority. So yes, it's coming down to the money side of it, because if I move, I'd really like to go there without a mortgage at this time. We've got a reasonable mortgage here, but I know that if we do it right, we can go there without a mortgage and still do what I love doing.
Yeah, sure. That is tough. And the finances thing is very, very real. I have often ask people, do you have a number? And they look at me like, what do you mean to have a number? Do you have a number? If you had a number that if that much money were coming in on a continuous basis, that you would say, all right, I'm going to choose other pursuits than the financial gain route, if you will.
Yeah.
And what I've found, Steve, is most people don't have a number. They don't know. They've not spent enough time thinking about it to say how much is enough and work toward that. And one of the things that I love to share with people is, look, it doesn't matter how big the mountain is. In other words, how many assets you have. Right. What matters is how much flows off the mountain. Because if you have enough flow, it doesn't matter what the mountain looks like. It's just about the flow. So most people have to struggle with that one a little bit.
Yeah, I know my numbers. I can say that my dad was an English guy, a handwriting guy. I was a numbers guy. I can still remember phone numbers from 30 years ago. I've always loved numbers, so I'm in my numbers pretty much daily for my business. And I know where that tipping point is that will make my decision easier. And it has to do with number of members as well, right? So we're carrying on growing. We're carrying on there. There will get to a point where if I add enough members over the next year that I don't need to sell to do what I want to do.
Yeah, sure, of course. So there's different ways of approaching.
That's part of the process, right? Yeah. That's part of the process. And, I'm very in with the numbers. It's a very, very big, hairy, audacious goal, as they call a BHAG. But if I got to that number, then I'll be able to do both. So it wouldn't be a challenge.
Reverse engineer it, sort of thing. All right.
Yeah.
Steve Black, thank you very much. Final words to the entrepreneurs out there, growing their businesses, trying to live their dreams, getting to the next level. What would you want to leave them all with?
So for this one, it doesn't matter whether you have an online business or an in-person business. It doesn't matter whether you're on social media or you're going out to chamber events, networking, Rotary, Toastmasters. Network, connect, and build relationships. Honestly, if you're just an online business, you need to build those networks with JVs, a JV and affiliate relationships. You need to know who the JV is and the affiliate is. If you're an in-person local business, like a tradesman, a HVAC plumber, build your network in town, get to know people, get to build relationships with people. Those relationships, even if you don't get that many referrals, are going to be resources for you through the long term for your business. People to ask questions of, people to get to know. Network, build relationships. That's the only thing I can advise people to do.
As they say, your network correlates to your net worth. Steve Black, thank you very much for your wisdom. Really enjoyed our time together, as I'm sure everybody else did. Look forward to many more interactions with you. And thank you very much for being such a great BNI leader as well.
Thank you, Ridgely. Appreciate you being here. Well, appreciate me being here. Thank you.
It's all good.